What is up, guys? Welcome to another video. Another video means another dopamine high. I said that buy something to feel something, and today we're back at it with another review. Today's review in question is Hasbro Star Wars, the Black Series Gaming Greats Scorch. He is finally here. The final member of Delta Squad has been released, and for everyone who's been collecting these guys upon release like I have, we can finally say that Delta Squad is now complete, and I'm just very happy to be able to say that because it's been a while. I think they started doing Delta Squad a year ago, so I think it's been a year, maybe under. But if you do want to get this figure yourself, if you haven't gotten him already, he goes for $28.99 on GameStop and GameStop only, seeing that he's from the Gaming Greats series. And if you've pre-ordered this figure already, he should be showing up around your doorstep, you know, anytime this week, because obviously I pre-ordered him, and here I am doing the review. So if you pre-ordered him and haven't gotten him yet, you should be seeing him soon. But before we jump right into the review, a little background information on our boy Scorch, also known as RC1262. He is a member of Delta Squad, a squad of Republic Commandos. His first appearance was in Star Wars Republic Commando, my favorite Star Wars video game, and his role in the team was Demolitions and Explosives Expert. He has a very energetic attitude and mindset towards a lot of things, and he just likes blowing stuff up and having a grand old time. But his other appearances are in Republic Commando 000, Republic Commando True Colors, that one episode of Clone Wars Adventures, Order 66, a Republic Commando novel, Imperial Commando 501st, and then obviously we've been seeing him in the Bad Batch. So that's just a little bit of background information on our boy. If you want to look into him further, there is a link in the description to the Wookieepedia page about this boy. And with all that said, let's jump right into the review. So starting with the packaging, we have the new plastic-free packaging. So we have a nice photo of Scorch on the front, a nice illustration on the slanted side, and then on the other side we have another photo of Scorch with the Gaming Greats logo and the whole plastic-free packaging thing. Then we have a nice photo of Scorch yet again, and then a brief description of what he is all about. So let's open this up to make sure everything is included. So of course we pull them out, they're all wrapped up. So just taking the accessories and putting them aside, looking at Scorch, you know, getting him out of his wrapping. First impressions on the visuals, everything is looking good. I'm very excited to go further in depth with this figure. Just put him aside for a second to see if this is all looking nice and neat. And then we have his blaster, which has some interesting changes, or additions I should say, comparing it to the other blasters. And then of course we have his backpack. So with all that said, let's take a further look into this. So starting off with articulation in the head region. First, you can rotate his head 360 degrees, and then you can have him look up and down a decent amount as well, and then you can have him tilt his head side to side a fair amount as well. And with all that, you can get a nice spherical range of motion out of him. And I really enjoyed the range of motion, how much he can look around and not have his helmet clash with his armor at all. So very happy with the head articulation. And then taking a look at the arms, you can rotate his arms 360 degrees. Just be very careful with the shoulder piece following the movement of the arm. You don't want it to tear or rip off in any way, so be very careful with that. But you can get that 360 degree rotation nonetheless. And then when it comes to opening up and bringing up his arms, you can get a really good range out of that. I'm very happy with how much he can, you know, move his arm, his shoulders that way. And then when it comes to the elbows, you can bring his forearm up a decent amount before his forearm clashes with his bicep piece, but no complaints. It's not the end of the world. Very happy with that range of motion. And then you can rotate his elbow and forearm 360 degrees. And then of course moving down to the hands, you can rotate 360 degrees and bend the wrist however you please. So overall, very happy with the range of motion we have in the arms. It is definitely better than most Black Series figures that we do get. So yeah, very happy with that. Looking at the torso, by no means is it a crunch, but we can get this decent back and forth movement, and then we can get a nice spherical rotation out of it as well. So overall, very happy with his range of motion in the torso, better than most Black Series figures, and it allows for better posing and balancing. So very happy to see this. And then looking at the articulation in the legs, you can get a full 360 rotation out of both legs. The little packaging on his thigh will not get in the way at all. And then you can have him do a pretty alright split. By no means is it a full split, but it's like 80% of a split, I would say. And then of course you can bring both his legs up, so if you want him to sit down on the ledge of a cliff or in a chair, you can have him do that as well. And when it comes to the knee bend, you're not getting a butt kick out of him, but you are getting enough range of motion to have him do a running stance or something of the sort. So very happy to see that. And then you can rotate the calf 360 degrees if you wanted to do that as well. And then when it comes to the feet, it's rotate 360 degrees and bend however you please. I will say this one foot right here struggled to rotate at first, but eventually I was able to get it to do so. So just mind that your figure's feet might be stiff. Granted, it depends on the elements, if you're in colder areas or whatnot, but you know what I'm trying to say. But anyways, very happy with the overall range of motion and articulation in his legs, and I would say overall I'm very happy with the articulation range of motion throughout this entire figure. It is some of the best articulation we've seen in the Black series. And looking at accessories, starting off with the big one, which is his backpack, and it's simple as putting the peg into the peg hole, and the backpack fits nice and snug. It doesn't feel like it's going to go anywhere. So I flicked it, shook the figure, tried to see if it would loosen up at all, and it did not. So very happy to see that here. And then for the second and final accessory included, we have Scorch's DC-17M with the grenade launcher configuration to cater for his explosive needs. And something they decided to do, which I kind of wish they did before releasing the entire Delta Squad, that they did with his blaster here, was go the extra mile and add some color variation, which I appreciate. I'm not shitting on it at all. I really like how they did that to give it some extra flair, but it just kind of feels weird that Scorch has his blaster look extra pretty and everyone has these just blank black or gray blasters. I kind of wish they went the extra mile, starting with Boss and then the releases following. So it's just weird that they decided to do it now, but I appreciate that they did it nonetheless, because now his blaster looks extra nice. And of course it has the normal DC-17M details that they got, and then of course the grenade launcher configuration they nailed as well. So very happy with this translation of the blaster. Just thought it was weird that they decided now to start adding some flair to the blaster. And with articulation and accessories now out of the way, we can discuss the visual presentation of this figure, and I do have to say this is probably one of the best looking out of the four, because with each release they just kept getting better and better. Because originally I thought their armor was looking a little too clean, it didn't have enough grit on it, and the art style of the Republic Commando game, it's very dirty, it's very gritty. Their armor is never clean, like, at all. So I kind of wished from the beginning that they would make their armor look a hell of a lot more dirtier, and with Scorch that is very apparent here. I mean, with the previous releases there was scratches and put things of dirt here and there, but with Scorch his armor looks dirty, his paint is wearing off, there's scratches, there's wear and tear, there's character, especially because he's the explosives expert. Being around explosives a lot, your armor is going to be damaged and worn a lot more than the others, and that is very apparent here. So very happy with that. And then of course the like I said, the paint looking like it's scratching off and whatnot. Just I love the amount of detail they added on Scorch here to really give his armor character, besides the paint job that he gave it. So very happy with that. And then of course with the sculpting, they got all the little details, the lines, the scratches like I mentioned earlier, buttons, just all little things that we see on the Republic Commando armor we see here very well. And then of course his undersuit, they got the lines, the wrinkles to make it actually look like cloth and all that. So very happy with everything that they've done here for a Black Series figure. This figure looks phenomenal, and I'm very happy with how they went about him. So yeah, that's pretty much all I'm gonna say before it sounds like I'm shilling a NECA figure. If you know, you know. And with all that out of the way, we can move things over to some size comparisons to put this boy into scale. Starting off, we have NECA's The Armored Lost Predator. Then we have NECA's Big Chap. Jazz wears Halo The Spartan Collection Jerome. Jazz wears the World of Halo 3 ODST Rookie. And then finally we have McFarlane's The Doomslayer. And here we are at the turntable segment of the video. This is pretty much where I go over strengths, weaknesses, likes, dislikes, pros, cons, general thoughts and opinions, just my input, give y'all something to bounce off of, and go down into the comment section below and get a discussion started, because if you comment down there, I will most likely reply to your comments, because obviously I like talking about this stuff. So with all that said, I want to get the sour stuff out of the way and discuss the dislikes, weaknesses, cons, whatever you want to call it first. And there's really only two things that do come to mind, and they both kind of tie back to how this figure uses the Hunter mold. Now, I know a lot of people are disappointed that Delta Squad is using the Hunter molds because Hunter does have commando armor. It's just he's, thinner, more on the thin side of things. And the thing is, though, so do Delta Squad in the Clone Wars episode, and so does Scorch in the Bad Batch, and pretty much all the commandos that we've seen in the Bad Batch. Their armor is thinner than what we saw from Delta Squad in the Republic Commando video game. In the Republic Commando video game, our boys were thick and chonky, large and in charge, if you will. But in Clone Wars and Bad Batch, all the commandos, they're a little bit thinner. They cater towards the art style. It's more of an artistic thing. And Hunter is using commando armor, and of course the first figure they did using commando armor was Hunter, and they based all of Delta Squad off of Hunter's mold. So a lot of people point their anger at Hunter for Hasbro reusing his body mold, which to an extent I understand, because Hasbro is advertising these figures from Republic Commando, and technically because they're using the Clone Wars sizes, this is not Republic Commando accurate, and everyone has been wanting to see them do a version of the thick boys. They want the thick adaptation of Delta Squad, not this thinner Clone Wars version that we saw first with Hunter's figure. But that is one thing that you may or may not consider a nitpick. I'm just throwing that in there in the dislikes because I know a majority of people dislike this. And then the other thing is that on his forearm he has the peg hole for Hunter's knife holster, because this is using the Hunter mold. Of course, that stayed there. Hasbro didn't think to remove it when releasing Delta Squad, so that's just there, and it's useless because none of Delta Squad has any equipment that they attach to their forearms. So that's can also be considered a nitpick, but it's just something also that I can see people being iffy about. So yeah, that is all I can think about when it comes to the sour portion of this figure. And then looking at the likes, pros, strengths of this figure, starting off with the articulation, I will admit that the Hunter mold has some of the best articulation we've seen throughout the entire Black Series. You can get a lot of cool poses and just stances, and get a lot of cool photos with this figure because of his range of motion / articulation, and I love it. It's some of the best articulation we've seen, and I really hope Hasbro strives to try and give more figures in the Black Series this type of articulation. And then the only other thing that really comes to mind is them going the extra mile on the blaster and giving it some color variation. It really shows that they wanted to make this figure look as good as possible. I mean, the visual presentation already on this figure is really great, as you could tell in the visual presentation segment of this video, but I really like how they went the extra mile on the blaster. Like I said, I wish they did that earlier, starting with Boss, so everyone had that little bit of flair on their blaster. But this shows that Hasbro is starting to care about the blasters rather than giving us blasters that are all black or gray. They wanted to spice it up and give them some more value, so I can really appreciate that with this figure. And after that, like I said, this figure looks good, he feels good, so I have overall no other complaints except for the whole using the Hunter's mold debate. So do I recommend this figure? Yes, absolutely. I do think that this is a great figure to add to anyone's Star Wars collection, especially if you are trying to get all of Delta Squad. You do have to get Scorch, and if you are just all riled up in the Bad Batch hype, Scorch is a really good figure as well. Like I said, he has some of the best articulation we've seen in the Black Series due to him using the Hunter mold, and overall, just because of that, him looking really good as well. This figure has a lot of display and play value, all the articulation and range of motion you can get, and that playability, and then because he looks good, you can put him on display and he will still look really, really good. So yeah, I do absolutely recommend this figure. And then one thing I want to address before moving out to the outro is I did not do a to be desired portion for this video, and for those wondering what that is, that's usually where I go over what I think they could have changed, adjusted, added, removed, stuff like that pretty much. And I didn't do that for this video because I'm actually going to be doing a more larger formatted to be desired video about the entire release of Delta Squad, going over what I think they could have changed, added, improved upon, stuff like that, because there's a lot to be said about the Delta Squad releases. Obviously I kind of touched up on it a little bit in the Hunter mold thing, but yeah, that's something I'm going to be working on in the future, hopefully come out within the month. If not, then there's something wrong with me. But yeah, there's just a little explanation for that. And with all that said, we can move out to the outro. So please tell me down below, do you have this figure already? And if you do you like or dislike this figure? And if you don't have this figure already, will you be picking this figure up? Please tell me down below. I like talking about this stuff. Obviously, I'll most likely reply to all of your comments. And with all that said, I really do hope you enjoyed this video. A like and a subscription would be very much appreciated. And obviously, you know how I feel about comments. I encourage it. And don't worry about the bell. We both know that shit is broken. And if you want to see more stuff like this, there's plenty of it up on the channel. I've reviewed a handful of Star Wars The Black Series figures already. I've done the entirety of Delta Squad prior to this video. So if you want to go check those out, you can. And I also review NECA and Jazzware stuff as well, surrounding the Alien, Predator universe, and the Halo universe. So if any of that interests you, you're more than welcome to go check that out. I highly encourage it. And with all that said, I hope you have a great day, and please stay hydrated. It is very important.